They don't honor the one who stays, not the one who forgives endlessly, not the one who explains patiently, not the one who keeps offering more chances hoping they'll one day realize your value. They admire the one who vanishes, the one who doesn't plead, doesn't argue, doesn't give notice, the one who quietly exits. And when you leave not in anger, not in bitterness, but with calm and conviction, everything shifts. As Machiavelli once said, if you must choose, it is safer to be feared than loved. And nothing instills more fear than the person who has stopped needing you. Here's the truth. The reason they treat you as optional is because you keep proving you'll remain no matter how poorly you're treated. You're always accessible, always explaining, always making concessions. And they've picked up on something dangerous. No matter how I behave, you won't walk away. So they push boundaries. They withdraw. They show disrespect. They provoke. And each time you stay, you reinforce their belief. Let's be very clear, they're not unsure, immature, or poor communicators. They know exactly what they're doing. They're conditioning you. Each time you run after them, each time you overjustify, each time you plead for answers, they learn they can hurt you and still keep control. You lose dignity, they retain power. But the second you stop engaging, the second you fall silent, the moment you don't respond, don't participate in the argument, don't chase a reply, that's when they start to fear. Not you, but your distance. That's when you disrupt the pattern. That's when you do the unexpected, you disappear. No warnings, no scenes, no final speech. Just silence. And that far more than shouting or closure or explanations is what changes everything. Machiavelli captured it well. A prince is honored when he is a loyal ally and a formidable adversary. In simple terms, be undeniable when present, unforgettable when gone. Clingers are never feared. Beggars aren't respected. But boundaries enforced through silence that commands respect. They remember the one who never returned. Let me illustrate. Say someone wrongs you, lies, mocks, uses you, and walks away. You send the emotional essay, the heartfelt explanation, the plea, and they respond with, lol, you okay? Or you're overreacting. That just proves they weren't seeking connection. They were testing your emotional availability. Now flip the scenario. They cross the line, and you say nothing. No reaction, no correction, no attempt to repair. You disappear. Suddenly they're uncomfortable. They message, are you okay? So you're just not talking to me anymore. I didn't think you'd really go. Now the power balance is different, not because you overpowered them, but because you refuse to play the game. That's the Machiavellian tactic, silence as strategy. Don't engage, just exit. Let them yell into the void. Because silence isn't absence, it's a tactic. It's how you reclaim the space you gave up in your search for validation. And here's a harsh but freeing truth. They only begin to value you when you're no longer within reach. You don't have to get even. You don't need to retaliate. You don't have to prove a point. All you need to do is vanish so completely that your absence echoes louder than anything you could say. They won't hear your arguments. They'll feel the silence. They'll revisit your last message. They'll scroll your feed looking for signs of bitterness, of forgiveness. But they'll find nothing. Because you didn't walk away from them, you walk back to yourself. Here's the uncomfortable reality. They never thought you'd actually leave. They assumed you'd bend, plead, endure because you've always been the one who cared more, who reached out first, who tried to mend the damage. But when you walk away without handing them a villain, without offering them closure, without feeding their desire for drama, you become a mirror. And in that mirror, they're forced to face what they don't want to see, their insecurity, their manipulation, their emotional dependence. That's what haunts them. Not your anger, not your sadness, but your refusal to react. Machiavelli knew this. Most people don't change through kindness or empathy. They only change through consequence. He said a ruler must learn how not to be good. It sounds harsh, but it's the truth. Always being kind, available, forgiving in the face of repeated disrespect isn't noble. It's self-destruction. There's nothing admirable about staying where your value is constantly questioned. There's no strength in loving someone who only responds to absence. You're not being loyal, you're just afraid to let go. So let's talk about what it really means to walk away. It's not about dramatic exits. It's not about cryptic posts. It's not pretending to be indifferent while secretly but checking in. Walking away is an internal decision. You stop explaining. You stop defending their behavior. You stop lying to yourself that they'll change, and you finally admit they never had to, because you were the one doing all the work, holding the relationship together, bearing the cost alone. Walking away means you stop investing in something that only takes from you. And what happens next, they unravel. Quietly at first. A like here, a casual message, an unexpected compliment. It seems innocent, but it's not. They're probing, they're testing, they're hoping, because now you've become rare. And what's rare becomes revered, but only when it's gone. Now comes the hardest part, the urge to respond, to explain, to prove they lost something valuable. But resist it, because the moment you reply, you send one message: they still have access. And no one respects what they can reach anytime they want. They respect what they had to work for and couldn't hold on to. The ones who truly cared for you would have changed while you were still present. But those who only acknowledged your worth after you left, they never truly appreciated your presence. They simply feared your absence. That's not affection. That's control. That's panic. They don't miss you. They miss the version of themselves that felt empowered when you were always there. Machiavelli would have seen your silence not as petty, but as political, not emotional, but calculated. You're no longer reacting, no longer seeking approval, no longer auditioning for acceptance. Now you're in command, and your first exercise of power was leaving without waiting to be pursued. Now you're not the needy one. You've become the enigma, the void, the question they can't answer. They invent stories to soothe themselves. They're probably with someone else. They're being childish. They're just looking for attention. But deep down, they recognize the truth: you're really gone, because they couldn't keep you. And staying would have meant abandoning yourself. That's what stings the most, not the silence, but the truth behind it. What happens next? People begin copying your distance. They'll act unbothered, unaffected. They'll mirror your energy, but it's all a facade. Because when someone genuinely doesn't care, they move on. But when someone's pretending not to care, they watch everything: your posts, your silence, your calm. They're quietly hoping for a slip of return, wishing for the version of you who once bent your own boundaries just to maintain connection. But that version of you ended the moment you left. As Machiavelli once wrote, the first indicator of a ruler's wisdom is the company he keeps. So look around. Who did you allow to stay? Who did you keep explaining yourself to? Who did you endure? That responsibility isn't theirs, it's yours. But that ends now. Walking away isn't just about them, it's about what you're no longer willing to endure from yourself. No more defending, no more fixing, no more bleeding for those who wield the blade. You've transitioned from being emotionally accessible to emotionally sovereign. And the best part, you're not resentful, you're not guarded, you're not even bitter. You've just remembered one thing: if they only respected you after you left, they never deserved to stand beside you. You're finished creating space for people who only wake up to your worth when your silence screams louder than your words. Here's a final truth to anchor deep in your spirit. You never needed to shout to be heard. You never had to prove your faithfulness. You never had to wear yourself out just to feel visible. The right people would have seen you all along. They would have honored you the first time. They would have made changes while you were still present. They would have offered a genuine apology without needing pressure. They would have appreciated you before you became absent, but they didn't. So now they don't get access to the renewed version of you, the calm one, the balanced one, the one who doesn't need answers because the door was already shut by them. You're not ruthless. You're not distant. You're clear. And to those lacking emotional maturity, clarity feels like coldness. It resembles rejection, but really it's reclaiming your power. Because the moment you decide to leave, you stop waiting for someone to choose you. You stop yearning to be recognized. You stop nurturing barren land that was never meant to bear anything but sorrow. Now you're not running after love, you're drawing respect with your silence. Let them speculate. Let them rewrite their version. Let them talk. You're no longer in that story. You've turned the page. You're not the enemy. You're not the savior. You're the turning point. And those who refuse to understand the message, they'll come face to face with it again in someone else who exits quicker, softer earlier. This is how power works. When you walk away, they'll either grow enough to catch up or they'll be left behind watching you rise to a place they can no longer touch.